Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here, and back with another live stream, and delighted to have Rick McCracken on with me today to dive a bit deeper into Cardano Governance. I'm sure everybody watching this is going to know who Rick is, one of the real OGs around the Cardano space. So it's great that Rick could take the time to come on and have a chat.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me on, Paul. I appreciate it. And I was just checking out how your stream went live onto Twitter. So I'm just curious, and it looked great. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think we should be live on Twitter and YouTube and Twitch, even though I never really pay attention to Twitch, but it's out there. Put Cardano out there as many places as we can.
It is. I just gave it a retweet, and good for you, man, on keeping up these podcasts going and getting the information out to everybody. And yeah, this is neat. So afterwards, show me how that works. I want to see how you got this StreamYard linked up to Twitter, because that is amazing.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Pop. As soon as you said we're go, boom, it went live on Twitter. I was watching it. It's freaking amazing.
Oh, no, yeah, I've never actually been able to watch it because I'm here concentrating on this, but it's very handy. StreamYard's a great bit of software for all web-based for anyone who wants to do podcasts like this. It's definitely one I'd recommend. But how's everything been with you? I think people who follow you on Twitter, you've been at some of the recent events. Great seeing you walking around, just walking up to different projects, different people, getting a feel for what's going on. So before we get into governance, what's your own thoughts on the space right now? How's things been with you for the last while?
Paul, I got to tell you, I've never been so bullish in a bear market, man. I'm just so freaking switched on bullish right now. And I know it's like we're deep in a bear. And it's kind of like that kinetic energy, potential energy pendulum swinging. Like the further you're into a bull market, the more likely you're going to go bear. And the further you're into the bear, the more likely you're going to go bull. And I'm just sitting here like, are we at the bottom yet? I don't know. But I'm feeling bullish. Right? Yeah. Because there's so much getting done. You saw Axo go live. We saw, Dex Hunter release a really super cool product. Liquid is they have about 10 different tokens listed that they're going to allow people to use as on the supply side, so they can borrow against it, right? And I'm like, holy crap. I mean, it's amazing on where we're at now. And that's why I'm so bullish, is because of all this cool tech. And Axo is on pre-prod. So if you use their preview link, that preview is running on pre-prod. Use pre-prod wallet, you can play around with it.
Yeah, actually, anyone who didn't see Axo yet, I definitely recommend checking it out, because it's not just another DEX. Like, I know it is a DEX, but when you start getting into it, I posted a video about an hour ago for anyone who wants to figure out how to use pre-prod and how to dive a bit deeper, and definitely worth checking out, because I've only touched the surface on what it has. And there was a lot of expectation on that one. Would they actually deliver? And they went from 0 to well over 100 in 1 hour when they launched that testnet. It wasn't just, here's 1 or 2 features. It was everything, which was incredible to see. And
that's what I like too. There was no long dragged out tease. There was just, hey, we're getting ready to launch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch, right? The preview, it's not live on mainnet, but it is on pre-prod. And
yeah,
people are fascinated. I'm going to get a better look at it this weekend. I didn't get a chance to deep dive into it yet, but I've been watching what other people are doing, and very intriguing.
It's very different to the last bear market for Cardano. So previous to the last bull run and everything, people mightn't have been around that long, but from being there, we didn't have things like this building. We didn't have dApps coming out, or we had dApps looking at building and starting to get ready to build. And we hadn't even smart contracts at the time. So where Cardano is now compared to the last bull is years ahead of, in terms of what can be done now. And look, it's only going to get better. There's still lots of work to be done, and governance is one of them, but it's great to see the progress over time. So governance, I suppose, is our main topic. We'll see anyone coming in. Please do share it out. Let others know what we're talking about. The more questions we get in here, the more involved, because I have my questions. I'm not as deep down into governance. I'm looking to learn from this. That's why I have Rick here to try and answer questions. We'll put them below. We'll try and bring them up. I see Federico has one about the difference with Cardano and other ones. I think we'll bring that one up a little bit later on. We'll get into what's happening with Cardano first, and then look at what other chains might have, or the differences or advantages or disadvantages of both. So where are we now for governance.
Well, okay, all right. So let me kind of give an overview. Then we'll get those questions. Definitely want to get those questions, Paul. Love how to do that, man. All right, so let's start setting expectations on what Voltaire is and where CenchoNet is at, and what it is and what it is not. Okay, so that's very important. So to set expectations is, all right, there's a lot of stuff built at the command line interface level that is highly functional. It's very operational. There's a few people testing it right now, community members testing it. But be patient and get involved. It will get done, but it requires more people to get involved. It's still early. So if you're good with command line, if you're good with Linux, if you're good with using the shell, get in there, tear it up, provide the feedback, pound away at it, grind at it. This is getting built, period. That's awesome. So there's a lot of features and functionalities complete in the command line node. Current release version 8.5.0 tech pre on CenchoNet only. So that's the tech side. So the tech side, the node is at the command line, very, very evolved. Now, what is also getting done with Voltaire to set expectations? There are channels in the Discord, so people need to hop over to Discord. If you're a wallet developer, if you're a dApp developer, you want to get over in that Discord for the IOHK Discord, scroll all the way down to where it has General CenchoNet, Announcement CenchoNet, SPO CenchoNet, DREP CenchoNet, Builder CenchoNet, Wallet CenchoNet. You got all these different CenchoNet Live stage. It's got a stage down there. So if you're a wallet maker, you want to get on there and how do you integrate your wallet? If you're a dApp maker or builder, how do you make a dApp that allows people to vote where they can just go in like any other Cardano technology and say, connect wallet, select votes that are available. You go in there, you pick the things you want to vote on, you cast your vote, or you go in there and you find a catalog of DREPs that you want to vote for, and you vote for a DREP who's going to vote on your behalf. Or you can go in there and make yourself a private DREP. We're not there yet. So to set expectations, we're not there yet, but that's where we need to go. We're still at the command line interface, highly functional. So that said, so what is there? What is out there right now? Well, you have the Intersect MBO, right? And it just stop me if I go on too long, because Paul, I'm just going to keep running. That's a great map to have, by the way. Phase 2 or phase 2 right there. And what Paul's is the functionality that's been built out, right? So phase 1, you can submit a constitution. You can. Mike Hornan just submitted one yesterday or 2 days ago. He edited it yesterday. I voted on it this morning just for practice, target practice. SPOs are able to vote. So here's what you can vote as a SPO. You can go in there and make yourself a DREP on testnet. You can go practice doing that now with the command line, making a cold key and a hot key. You're making your V key and S key, and you can get in there and vote as a DREP. You can vote. You can try to make yourself a constitutional committee member yet. I haven't tried that yet. That's one of my goals. Maybe this weekend is to be able to make myself that. But you see phase 2, DREP registration, DREP delegation, DREP voting. That capability is in there now, and that's where we're at. People can submit proposals, as in they can submit constitutions. I don't know if they can submit beyond that, but I did see a couple of people submit constitution-like proposals, right? And then CenchoNet phase 4, that's next. So we're not there yet. Phase 3 and phase 4, being able to submit an info governance action. That's just saying, hey, for the record, or as a poll, we're going to submit this info that people can vote on. And they can vote yes, no, abstain, and so forth. And it's just basically a statement. The info is making a statement, posting that on chain and getting a vote on it. And in phase 4, you're going to get into protocol parameter and treasury action changes. And I'm glad these phases are laid out like this, because it's kind of a crawl, walk, run layout. The easiest stuff is early, which is what you want. How do I make keys? How do I make a DREP? How do I make a SPO keys on, for voting and all that kind of stuff? How do you make a committee? You got to get that stuff knocked out, and then you get on to the other stuff with the protocol parameter, treasury actions, so on, being able to vote on them. So those are the things. So what is Voltaire, right? So I covered on what is it and what it is not. Well, what Voltaire is it allows people to define and fund the direction of how Cardano gets built, like what technologies are implemented in the future, what companies and people are building those technologies, and what funding is allocated to those companies and people, right? So it's kind of like this process of continuing so that Cardano is a living protocol, a living technology that continues to advance and continue to evolve. It's previously been called, a third generation blockchain, but if it's designed correctly, it can evolve into fourth, fifth, sixth generation, so on, out in the out years. So that's what Voltaire is for. It's for developing and maintaining and building the future of the protocol. And that's what it is. Now, what is Voltaire not? Well, Voltaire is not, it doesn't replace nation states. It does not replace sovereignty of a country. It doesn't replace the laws of a country. It doesn't replace the election system, how countries elect their leaders and politicians. It doesn't do that. Now, can this type of technology be used for that in the future? Sure, quite possibly, right? Quite possibly it could be, but that's not what Voltaire is. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to get to a minimum viable product for governance, right? That MVP. And that's where SIP 1694 comes in. SIP 1694 is like the definition of the software that is used to build the technology, right? So it's like, it's not what the actual Voltaire is. SIP 1694 is not the Voltaire, right? 1694, like, it creates the bricks and mortar that we need to build the building with the bricks and mortar, okay? SIP 1694 allows you to build the technology required to allow people to reach some sort of consensus on what should be funded and how much it should be funded and who should be funded in order to execute that stuff. Now, people are doing some funny things on testnet. They're like, and I can see it happening on mainnet. It's going to happen on mainnet. They're doing stuff like, okay, I'm going to vote for this much money from the treasury, and whoever votes yes, I'm going to give you a cut. Right. So it's really, it's degen. And of course, people are going to experiment with that because, of course, it's probably going to happen on mainnet. But that's not the intent of Voltaire, and that's not the intent of the protocol. Right. So is it going to happen? Yeah, sure. Someone's going to do it because they think it's funny and they think they might get away with it. Now, hopefully, there's enough smart people who are actively involved, who have enough ADA, and they vote and say, no, I'm going to downvote that. I'm going to vote no, because we're not going to take the treasury and divide it up and give it to a bunch of people because we're a bunch of degenerates, right?
Yeah.
You're going to use it for what it was designed for. Now, you could do anything. So the cool thing, I was talking to Andrew Westberg about this kind of stuff when we were at one of the workshops at a SIP 1694 workshop. We're going to have enough leeway to hang ourselves. We're not really hang ourselves. We're going to have enough leeway where we can screw this up, right? Yeah. Now, if we do screw it up, that means we failed as humans. That doesn't mean it failed as a protocol. That means we failed as humans to think it through and do things correctly. But you could make a protocol change that could possibly make the best protocol, the most highly incentivized. Everybody wants a piece of this action, because it has governance, right? And Cardano wouldn't necessarily fail, as in, like, Bitcoin is almost impossible to change because they have no form of governance, right? They have the core developers, and then once they're to go to implement the change, usually it's technological, really foundational. I don't know what they are.
Yeah,
they're not really voting on stuff. I
think the miners have a say in it, whether they upgrade their software and stuff like that. Like
which is good. That's really neat. The miners say, hey, if we upgrade our software, Ergo's doing that too, right? So if we do the upgrade or we put a little parameter in our boot file, then that means, yes, I voted for it.
We've seen a bit of a version of that with Cardano, which release was it? One of the last major node releases where some of the community weren't happy with certain aspects in the node and they were asking for more time to test. And it's gone off the top of my head what node it was with catastrophic errors at the time.
Oh, yeah. That was the 135.0, 135.1, 135.2 that had problems on, that ran into something with testnet. And then finally we got to 135.3. But now that we shift the protocol naming conventions, so now they all start with 8 because it's on protocol version 8. Yeah, that was and that was a good example of an active and lively community providing feedback and pushback and saying, "Hey, wait a second, we know the engineers have a testing process, but we're a little concerned. We would like to hear from the community experts and get their endorsement." Right. So 135.3 was a good release, but the good thing is the community came together and said, "Hey, we want to hear from our experts. We want to hear from some people who took a little bit closer look and saw problems in the previous versions and make sure that's been sorted out." So yeah,
and that's what we want to move more towards, is that it's not IOG are the ones that are building the software and deciding when testing is done and when it's ready to push out, and that it's more people outside of that building, testing. You have consensus then on when things are ready or what direction, like you said there, who's going to be building or what they're going to be building. And at the end of the day, in a very simple terms, we want the community, us as holders of ADA, to be able to drive where the Cardano project is going to go and what's going to be built and what can be done in the future, rather than having entities. And I suppose that's coming back to Federico's question on the difference between governance on other L1s and Cardano, is that we don't want a small committee deciding what happens or a leadership group. It needs to be the whole, anybody who wants to be involved, any holder can be involved and can have their say, is the big difference that I see and where we're really pushing towards.
Yeah. And I can't speak for the difference of other protocols because I don't know them well enough to speak to them. I do just a few small examples, like Dash is, from what I understand, really good. It's just had governance for a very, very long time. The ability to vote on what should be built next or what should be funded next to be built and stuff like that. And then some of the other protocols, it's more like they're voting on versions of software upgrade types, things like that. Things that I consider engineering decisions as opposed to being community vote decisions, but not a lot of them. I just saw a few of those. I don't know much about what the other L1s are doing. I'm so caught up in Cardano. I'm trying to make time to work on Ergo more, just to play around with it and go out there and do some degen on the Ergo side. But
the other L1s as well. I need to spend time to look into governance and different aspects of what they're doing too. And bear markets are a great time to do that if you can get the time. But
Ergo governance is pretty simple. If you run a miner, you put a parameter in your file, and then it says, "Yeah, I voted for it." Or you upgrade your software, you don't upgrade it. So, yeah, that's proof of work voting is quite simple. But it doesn't. It's not that it has a treasury. So what makes the governance on Cardano so important is we have this massive treasury. It's 1.4 billion ADA in it right now. It increases by, right now, I think about 4.9 million ADA per epoch. It goes up. So we need to figure all this stuff out. My guess is we need to figure it out within, those phases, phase 2, 3, 4. In the next 3 to 6 months, we need to start figuring out what these parameters should look like. And hopefully in phase 3 and 4 in testnet, we can get a feel for that, right? Like, for example, if we have 1.4 billion ADA in this massive war chest on mainnet, that's worth an insane amount of money. I mean, my gosh, what is that worth? $350 million worth of ADA right now, today. And people are going to be able to vote. Now, what you would want to do, you wouldn't want to be able to vote 100% of that treasury away in one go. Like, say, hey, let's launch a competitor with Starlink, but it's Cardano Starlink, where we launch satellites and rockets into space, right? I mean, I don't think you'd want to vote for that. It would take up the entire treasury, right? Now, if Elon Musk submitted a proposal that said, hey, I'll launch Starlink Cardano, right? So that's just a hypothetical scenario where you could drain the treasury. You don't want to do that, right? You might want to say, no, the maximum you ever want to withdraw at any one time is like 0.1% or 0.2% or something like that, right? I don't know. But there's smart people out there who will figure it out.
That's kind of what SIP 1694 was. That's not the definitive, this is how it's going to be always. You have to start somewhere. So that's what SIP 1694 was, just to get that foundation in there. And I know those people talking about who writes the Constitution and what it contains. And as far as I've seen, I haven't been as deep down as you have at the workshops and stuff, but anybody could contribute to what they thought should have been in it. And it's not set in stone. It's not like this is the constitution that's always going to be. It can be changed, and governance will be able to change aspects like that going forward. That you have to start somewhere. It's and figure out what works, what doesn't. Testnet is a part of that, Sancho, and with that, what's running on Sancho, that will be the Cardano mainnet. That node software will be brought in, just for anyone wondering, or correct me if I'm wrong here. That is this node software that us all as SPOs will upgrade to when it's ready to go to mainnet.
Yeah, if SPOs choose to upgrade to it, they can, right? And that's always remember, SPOs have this SPOs have kind of one ultimate power, and then delegators have this other ultimate power. And the SPO ultimate power is, am I going to choose to upgrade to that node version or not? And then the delegator ultimate power is saying, I'm going to stay with this SPO or not, right? If they choose not to upgrade. And so, 850. There's been a SPO call yesterday, and that release, the number might be different, I'm not sure, is probably going to mainnet soon. Maybe not exactly the way it is, but it'll at least be available on mainnet. There's still some benchmarking that needs to be done and some other testing that needs to be done. But that technology will be available. It doesn't mean you're going to be using it. Like, it might be available inside the node in a month or two. I don't know. But just because it's in there doesn't mean we're going to actually be using it, right?
Yeah, and that was just as well. So I just seen James' question after I started talking about that. The benefit of someone becoming a Sancho Net SPO versus mainnet, eventually they will be the same thing. Right now, Sancho Net is like any other test net we have. We have pre-prod and preview on Cardano, and becoming an SPO in that is helping the network, or if you want to get involved and be a part of driving where it could go or having your say in it, and overall just supporting the network. It's definitely something I need to spin up a node on, just to have one there to be a part of it too. I'm just seeing, have we, so there is other questions there about non-governance stuff. I'm keeping a bookmark of all of them, and I'm going to bring them up after we finish on it, just to keep the topics all together.
Okay. And for James's question there, I think one of the benefits of being a SanchoNet SPO is target practice. Practice. If you go on SanchoNet as a SPO, you can make the keys. You're going to make a vote S key and a vote V key and a couple other things. So I can't remember. It's not exactly like that. But you're going to make the stuff that you need to be able to vote as a SPO on SanchoNet to give you practice. That's the best part.
Yeah, and Danny says here about, so after I must delegate to a DREP, is it mandatory? I don't think it'll be you can still vote yourself, but if you don't want to be voting on every ballot, the ballot might be the wrong word, but everyone that comes up, if you don't want to be actively monitoring and voting, then you can delegate to someone that you trust that represents your values. And that will be my understanding of the DREPs. But you as a holder always have the right to come in and vote if you hold the AD yourself.
Yeah. And you know what's cool, Paul, is they already have this tech built on SanchoNet. It's already there. So what they did is they built in two types of persistent DREPs that are non-human. One of them is called always abstain. So let's say Danny doesn't want to delegate to a DREP. He can just cast always abstain. You can cast always abstain DREP, or you can cast the always abstain, or you make yourself a DREP. You build the keys. Right now it's command line interface, but I imagine by the time we go mainnet, we're going to have enough builders and Vault developers. If you want to self DREP, you could DREP yourself. And then you'd have public DREPs and private DREPs. Like, so let's say someone's a whale. They might want to be they might say, well, they've got millions of ADA and they say, I want a private DREP, and they make themselves a private DREP. And let's say there's other people who, like yourself, and you want to be a public DREP. You go out there and you say, hey, here's my DREP key. If you delegate to me, this is what I do, blah, 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 right? And then people say, oh, yeah, I know him. He usually figures it out pretty well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important, too, is because...
So is it mandatory? Kind of. Not really. Like, at some point, you won't get rewards if you don't do something.
Okay.
That's the current understanding. I could be wrong. But my current understanding is you either have to say, hey, always abstain, or always no confidence, or always something, or pick a human, or self-derep. You got to do something. But if you do nothing, you might not get rewards. No, you would get, they would still accrue. You won't be able to retrieve your rewards until your ADA rewards, right? Until you do something, whatever that something is. So
yeah, I remember seeing that was a big discussion on Twitter at one point, whether rewards should be withheld or different things like that. And once at the minute it's all command line, but once the UIs and everything are built properly, and I presume a lot of this will be integrated into our wallets. So users like that, when they go to withdraw their rewards, maybe they can't until they decide what their status is in terms of voting. And something like that is simple. It doesn't block the people from just holding it and staking or whatever way they want to do it. And the DREPs then, I presume that would all be public. So if I became a DREP and I told people, look, vote, give me your voting power, and when I go to vote, that would all be public, so that people could then look at what I voted on their behalf effectively. If they don't agree with that, then they pull their power and give it to someone else for the next votes.
Yep. It's that simple.
So what else have we not covered? I think on a high level, we've covered a lot of it. Timelines. Is there any timelines in mind here? I know software development, you can never say it's this date and whatever time, but are we end of this year? Could we see a mainnet version of this, or is it looking next year?
I don't think we'll see mainnet proper until late 2024. My guess only. That's just my guess. Will one of these versions that has Voltaire tech in it, could it see mainnet by the end of the year? Sure, it could, but it would be like having, an appendix. It doesn't do anything. It's just sitting there, right?
Yeah. Okay. So any other aspects of it do you think will be good to cover, discuss? I don't see, if anyone has questions on it as well, make sure and drop them below. I haven't been monitoring Twitter. I don't know if people leave comments on the videos there, but any other aspects that you can think of, Rick?
Yeah. If I talk too much, just tell me to stop. But okay. So Voltaire Intersect, all right? So Intersect currently has 630 members. I don't think I'm a proper member yet. I remember filling something out, but I didn't follow through. So I need to go finish that up. So Intersect, the 630 members, some of them are businesses. So you can join Intersect as a business. Like, let's say you're a wallet creator, and you say, hey, I'm going to join this MBO as a business, right? It is currently free, from what I understand, that there's no cost. But in the out years, there's going to be a cost associated with joining. Or you can join as a human, as an individual person. So I need to read up and figure that out. A lot of this is my homework. So Paul and I are doing this podcast so I can figure out my honey-do list of what I'm supposed to be doing that I'm not doing. And then you can come back to us in a few weeks and give us the answers then again. Yeah. So there's going to be an interest. Yeah, that's a good idea. As a matter of fact, so I got to go do my homework, and we'll do another podcast in a couple of weeks. And so there's going to be an Intersect booth available at the Cardano Summit in Dubai, and I'm going to be going to Dubai. So I'll do my homework over at the Intersect booth. So if you're going to Dubai, go check out the Intersect booth over there. That's just to get more information. And the nice thing about going to Dubai is you're going to not just Dubai, they're all over the world. These things are all over the world. These meetups is you could talk about all this stuff related to Voltaire. What do you like? What did we talk about on this podcast that you like? What don't you like? What don't you want? Right. Most of this is just the tech. So it's not really like you either want or don't want the tech. It's the brick and mortars, right? So what are we going to build? That's the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about. All right. Now here's another cool thing. Intersect is going to be rolling out various grants. Okay. Where they're making money available to builders and developers to make the stuff that Voltaire needs, right? And for Intersect to function and operate. And some of the grants that they're going to be allocating money for is important governance issues. Grants are going to be first and early. So if something's an important governance issue, there's going to be a grant for DREP campaign, right? So how to get DREP campaigns, I don't know, bootstrapped or whatever. There's going to be a grant for that. Keep your eye out. Check Intersect. Go check them out on Twitter. Constitutional Committee portal. There's going to be a grant for that. For example, a website or whatever it is that someone decides to build, they can submit proposals to get this grant money from the MBO, Intersect MBO, so they can build the Constitutional Committee portal, right? Other things that are going on with Voltaire, with
it's actually before you move off Intersect, just for anyone who hasn't heard of the MBO and Intersect, where does it fit in this? Like, it's going to decide. From what you're saying there, it sounds like they're the ones that are going to be deciding who gets grants to build what's needed for Voltaire, is it? And does that money come from the Treasury?
Yeah, I don't know where the money comes from. I don't know, but they're not going to be the only MBO. There's going to be multiple either MBOs, DAOs, all these different organizations, coming into existence in Cardano. It's just Intersect is a major general MBO, like an overarching type of MBO. I don't know where the money comes from though. Okay. But they have money from somewhere. It's a good question. Like, where's that money come from? Did it come from the Treasury, or what? So yeah. So there'll also be Intersect will also be opening up working groups, Voltaire related. They need to bootstrap a technical steering committee that will be standing up soon. So if you're interested in being part of a technical steering committee for how the future of Cardano plays out. Now, these technical steering committees, much like the parameter committees, like recently the parameter committee came into play, very important. Mm-hmm. They don't have ultimate authority. They build the direction and say, hey, this is the direction we want to go. Let's assemble a proposal with what we want to do, and then post that on chain for people to vote on. Right? It's an example. But people still have to approve it. Now, if some random dark committee that no one knows about submits a proposal, you might look at it and say, well, is it a good proposal or is it crazy, right? And, but at least these are committees that people they're getting it started, right? So technical committee, and they're looking for, and they're also, Intersect is looking for community inputs to stand up any new committees that might be needed. Like, I was thinking of doing one for governance security, but I don't know. We probably don't need a committee for that. We just need a document, best practices document or something like that. So if people have committees, they can do that. And Paul, what I'll do is when we're done with the podcast, I'll give you some links to all this stuff. I got links for all this.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'd have to put some links down below. Like, I only showed the Sancho testnet site, but I'm sure there's lots of different bits out there. And just on this, any of these committees that come up with suggestions or the equivalent of SIPs, they will all be voted on then on chain by the community, by the D-reps, and they will be the ones that have the final say. So none of the committees can come in and say, this should be brought into Cardano. They can come in and say that, but ultimately the vision is that it will be the community will decide if that's the direction that that they want to go. So the more people that get involved early on, the better ideas that come out, and then it comes down to the community to decide. And I suppose voting, there's always the question that comes up, especially around Catalyst time, is one ADA, one vote, or should we have DIDs, or what we should have? And to me, one of the core functions of a proof of stake blockchain is that the ADA, in the case of Cardano, ADA is your voting power. That is your say in the network, or part of it. Obviously, it's I was going to say gas, but it's not the gas, but it pays for your transactions and it's what helps the chain work. But a big part of it as well is that is your vote in the network of what happens.
It's the primary security mechanism. The security mechanism of Cardano is ADA. That's the security mechanism. And it's called proof of stake, not proof of DID. Plus, DIDs are highly gameable. I'm not an expert on DIDs, but I just know that I've read a few things, and it's very gameable. There's farms of people out there in certain places that just make DIDs. They can so we'll see. And as far as quadratic, I mean, quadratic is an interesting idea. It's interesting, but maybe in the out years, maybe if it's proven to be useful enough. But the thing is, so the thing with quadratic, at least I've had a few discussions with people on it. I'm an opponent to it. I don't want quadratic voting because.
Can you explain that actually, just for people who haven't heard of it, what it is?
So the quadratic voting is where you take like the square root. So if you have 100 eta, square root of 100 is 10. So your vote weight is 10, right? No. Instead of 100. And so what it does is it nerfs the whales. It's to decrease the power of the whales, but then the whales can bypass it by splitting wallets and regain some of that power back. Yeah. So it's just not, I don't think it's a very good idea, because why would you nerf the whales? Would you nerf their taxes? Would they pay less taxes if their vote power got nerfed? I don't know. It's kind of low. But the bottom line is that technology doesn't currently support it. Current technology is one Lovelace, one vote. Mm-hmm. One Lovelace, one vote. That's the current technology. So that would require major technological changes to implement that. I know some people say, oh, it's easy. We did it on something platform. And it's like, well, yeah, kind of. But when you're talking about the entire protocol wide, it's really not that easy.
Yeah. And then who decides on
we're going to break
a hardline rule that that's the way it should be going forward without having governance, because you're trying to shape governance, but you're already pulling a lot of power from different people in the way that you're setting it up. So straight away, you're defining potential future votes by taking power away from certain people in it. So it's a very hard one to do. So,
my philosophy is, don't take away a reason for people to buy more ADA.
Yeah,
don't take away their incentives. Thank you.
Yeah, and even the one wallet, one vote comes up a lot. That just doesn't work, because I know myself, I probably have 15, 20 wallets, maybe more, from different test wallets over time. So does that mean that I get 20, 25 votes? Someone else could come out and create hundreds of wallets, and there's just no way. And like you say, even bringing in DIDs, that can be gamed if that's what you want to do.
Someone will write a script that creates thousands of wallets, splits it all up, casts the vote, run a script again, and it brings them all back together. And what was the point? So you're going to give phenomenal cosmic power to people, to script kiddies who know how to game the system. Great, good job.
And Catalyst I think is an early conversation starter for what Voltaire and how governance could be there, because we've been voting in Catalyst now for, I don't know how, we've 10 funds gone. Actually, I just lost Rick there. I'm sure he'll come back in a minute. But Catalyst, we have been, I see Rick here back.
Yeah, popped down.
Oh, you're back there. That's all right. Yeah. I was just saying, Catalyst has kind of shown us what governance could be. I know Catalyst has a way to go too, but it's given us some early rounds of what we like in governance, what we don't like. And it's been a bit of a test bed too, to see. It hasn't given us the final blueprint of what to do, but it's one that is changing all the time too.
Yeah, it's a great place for the community to, one, fund things, and number two, get the feel for dealing with bigger budgets, because the Catalyst budget is a subset. So Voltaire is going to manage the entire 1.3 billion, and then Catalyst is going to be one proposal. It's just going to be one small subset where we vote on, does Catalyst get funded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how does that work? Maybe this hasn't been figured yet, is with Catalyst, so developers come in and say they want funding to build this tool or that tool or project or whatever. Where is the cutoff point between that and looking for funding from Voltaire to actually build something as part of the network? Like at some point in the future nodes will have to be funded out of the treasury. So where is the cutoff point, I wonder, between going to Catalyst or going to Voltaire or whatever it will be called for that funding?
Yeah, well, the sky's the limit. There's an infinite number of things people could actually do. But let's say, so Catalyst is already designated as like an innovation fund. So Catalyst has a very specific purpose. It can be anything that moves the ball down the field. So it's like a smaller microcosm of what Voltaire is, but it's primarily run by IOG. Now, let's say someone decides to create another type of innovation fund. Let's say they say, hey, Catalyst just doesn't cut it when it comes to the legal political world. So let's say another group stands up and says they create an MBO called the Political Legal Group or whatever, right? And then they say, hey, we're going to go to Voltaire, not Catalyst, but Voltaire upper level. And we're going to need, $5 million per year or 5 million ADA worth of dollars per year in order to drive legislation in favor of crypto, because Catalyst just ain't cutting the mustard, right? Mm-hmm. So then they launch that. And then us, the voters, can vote and say, yes, we want this. Let's say it's a reputable organization that represents multinational interests. That might win. But if it's a non-reputable organization, it's just some, I don't know, anonymous guy that don't know what the hell he's doing, or it's a single national, they only cover Antarctica and Madagascar. Okay, well, sorry, you're not going to win that vote, I don't think, anyway. But if you got organization, that's just an example. It was just an example. It could be anything. It could be engineering related. It could be say, hey, we want to build the biggest, most powerful side chain on planet Earth that runs faster than Solana and is worth more than Bitcoin. And we need 20 million ADA to do it. They might submit a treasury withdrawal. It's going to be a Cardano side chain. Or maybe they'll say, hey, we want to build a direct bridge from Bitcoin to Cardano where Bitcoin just flows right across the network unimpeded. And it's going to cost 20 million ADA to do it, right? Something like that. Those are just examples. It could be anything.
Yeah, I see one more question here on specifics of a Sancho Net SPO will be doing. I suppose it's similar to normally you're running a node that's part of the network, but you also have the voting capabilities that we don't currently have as SPOs on Cardano. But is there any other aspects that the SPOs will be doing? I know you touched on bits about it allows you now to be able to get in, set up your keys, figure out how it all works, and that would be the lion's share of it right now, would it? Yep,
it's that easy. Just get on there and vote as an SPO. Actually, I don't think you would actually vote. I don't know if you would vote on something as an SPO right now, because, all right, so the way Voltaire's plan to work, and again, this stuff is always open to feedback. SPOs would vote on things like parameter changes, but we don't have parameter changes yet. Right now, we just have constitution. Mm-hmm. So there's people are submitting constitutions. I could be wrong, but I think right now that's the only thing you can submit. So you got to make DREP keys. Go in there as a SPO, run a node. So here's what you can do as a SPO. Run a node, because we need nodes running. Right now, the chain density on Sancho Net is like 3.1%, which is kind of low. It should be 5%. So we need SPOs, run a node. It's very easy. Just follow the directions at sancho.network, the one that Paul showed earlier. Go in there, become a Sancho SPO, get a node running. Get your stake, get your delegation from the faucet. You don't have to be given the ADA to do the delegation. You just request the delegation from a faucet, and the faucet will allocate the delegation so that your pool make blocks. So that's what you can do as a SPO. And then what I suggest you do is go ahead and make your DREP keys so that you can practice. Then whenever we have SPO votes available for things like parameter changes, you can actually test the voting. So that's what it's going to be very, very, very important is when we start doing parameter changes is to have the SPOs, because you're going to have DREPs voting on a parameter change and SPOs voting on a parameter change, right? And they're different quorums of people. And I'm not sure exactly how it will work, but let's say it would pass. It meets a threshold for the DREPs, but it doesn't meet the threshold for the SPOs. I don't know. Or whatever that is, right? Whatever that vote is. But there are some votes that require both DREPs and SPOs.
Okay, and just for votes then, so Catalyst now is hopefully getting into cycles where it's every set number of months going forward. But with the likes of Voltaire or now on Sancho at the minute, can votes come up at any stage for that, or will they be in cycles like Catalyst?
Yeah, you can submit them now. There's some sitting out there right now. like Mike Hornan from Able, he submitted one that's sitting out there now. A couple others, I don't know what they are, but Mike actually documented it pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can go vote on it now. You just make a DREP keys. You just follow directions to make DREP keys and cast your vote. And it's a constitution. So can these votes happen now? Yes. You can vote on a constitution right now. I don't think you can vote a committee in, but I don't know. I have to look at the details. But yeah, you can vote on stuff now. So run a node and make DREP keys and vote as a DREP. Then eventually when we make SPO keys, you make SPO keys, make constitutional committee keys, stuff like that.
Okay.
It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while, but we will get there. And it's very nice right now. It's very nice right now, but it's also going to take a while to get there.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, I suppose. Any other questions on governance or anything on Cardano for the last 10 minutes or so? If anyone has any questions, doesn't have to be governance, could be whatever you want about Cardano. We'll try and take some of them. I seen earlier was two that were fairly related in around stablecoins. See, my camera's frozen. I'll fix that now in a second. Can Meehan really be a good replacement for USDC? We need more ubiquitous stablecoins. I think it could be. They're going the right route, doing the legal stuff in every state, I think is good for the long term. And they just need, the initial funding is going to be hard. You look at USDC and how much is already in there. Getting the first few million in for Meehan will be the big thing. And I know when I talked to the team, they said that you can use your USDC and go through the bank in the US. So you can send your USDC to them because they're a USDC bank. And then you can get the Meehan stablecoin on Cardano then, which will be great. But what's your thoughts around Meehan, Rick, and stablecoins in general, this was?
I want to see both because there's so many use cases. So Meehan, the interesting thing there is you're going to have a wallet where you can mint the tokens into Cardano directly from your bank, right? So you can bring the tokens into life using your own money or something like that. That's what I read. That's why they have this KYC process. And Meehan is also going to have proof of reserves that is going to be operated by the Charlie 3 oracles. The Charlie 3 oracles are going to have read-only capability on the Meehan bank account. And so I kind of like the idea for USDM, the ability to go straight from the Cardano network. And I'll give you a use case, man. I tell people what I'm thinking of doing. It's not financial advice. It's a really good way of getting yourself wrecked if you listen to me. So don't listen to me. Right. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you mint IUSD into existence. And if I wanted to then move the value from that IUSD, which requires me to lock ADA, if I want to move it to Coinbase, I would use USDC to send it to Coinbase. USDM is not on Coinbase. If I want to send it to my bank account, I would trade it into USDM. You just go into DEX because the DEXs are going to have trading pairs for all this stuff. USDM, IUSD, USDC, USDT. Liquid was the pioneer in getting that USDT, USDC loaded up there on the Cardano mainnet. There's going to be a lot more stuff coming. It's going to get wild, and I am freaking ready for it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what else they bring there. And the USDC and USDT at the minute is all through the one-chain bridge, I think. I do hope that sometime we will have that native on Cardano, because I think, especially when you look at what Axo Trade has brought out yesterday on testnet and the potential that's there with all of the with all the strategies and being able to build your own algorithms, we really need deep liquidity of stable coins to be able to really get the best out of them. Because when you can have stable coins to be in and out with your trading, that's where things really start to kick off. You look at other chains and the highest trading pairs are generally always stable coins, because markets fluctuate all the time. People don't always want to trade two volatile assets. And by that, I mean the likes of ADA versus, you mentioned Charlie 3 there. So ADA versus C3, both potentially volatile assets. So you can't gauge exactly what one is going to be. And with Meehan, I really like the aspect of the integration with Charlie 3 in that at the end of every day, they are able to see what's in the bank account. So the minting contracts as well. When you go to mint USDM on chain, if the reserves aren't in the bank, you can't actually mint it on chain. So we've all seen USDT, the questions that are always out there, is it backed or what's it backed by? We won't have them kind of questions with Mehin. So I really do hope it does kick off, and that becomes the standard for other stable coins as well that are fiat backed. Let me see if Clover Nodes, good to see you. Am I as excited as Rick for what's coming to Cardano after stables like USDM? Or I am, sorry, I was phrasing it like a question. Yeah, so any other topics, anything else you want to cover for the last few minutes, Rick, or have we covered enough today?
I think we hit a lot of good stuff. I am very attentive to see how this whole stablecoin plays out, because we have JED, which is kind of a decentralized asset-backed algorithmic stablecoin, right? It's like a hybrid. These are hybrid type coins. There's some kind of asset backing it, but there's also something algorithmic making it kind of stay near a peg, not always, but in general near a peg. USDM, I think, will be more stable because it will be one-to-one asset backed. Now, is it certainly centralized? Well, absolutely, but that's okay because most of these stable coins are. But it gives us time to work out the details on how to make these more decentralized stable coins on Cardano. But as long as we have the ability to get to stable coins, I think that's very, very useful.
This camera keeps freezing. I'll keep talking though.
Plug it back in. No, I'm just with put in a different USB port.
It's this cam link. I've been on a few calls today, so when it starts to overheat, it's not good.
I've used one of those, cam link.
With the JED, I think JED can be really good in a bull market, but in a bear market, you can struggle to get enough of backers for the reserve coin, which in this case is Shen. So when you look at it, the incentives for holding Shen right now aren't enough for the general public and the risk reward ratio to go in and mint it, to mint enough of that to allow people to mint JED. So I don't know. I can raise the questions. Unfortunately, I don't have the answers on what they can do to help incentivize it. I know you can there's yield farming and different things with your Shen and everything like that. But then again, that brings in a little bit more risk. So as much as some people don't like fiat-backed stablecoins because of them being in a bank and that centralization aspect, they still are a really good aspect to have. And the Cardano ecosystem really does need it. And Clover Knows asked there about USDA. Is it doomed or will we see it live eventually? At the minute, I think it's completely on pause. I know at the summit last year, I got to have a chat with the team, and they were hoping at that stage to have it live in February of this year. But then a lot of the legal side kicked in and the SEC started to have a heavier hand with crypto. So I think they seem to be sitting on the sidelines for now. I don't know if you've heard anything later than that, Rick.
No, I am subscribed to the newsletter. I used to get it monthly from about February until June timeframe, and then they made the announcement it stopped. No more newsletters. So I think they are on pause. There's no reason why they won't restart it, like they can. Yeah, but it is on pause.
I think they were going a different route to Mehin as well. They were looking to get a partner that was going to give them the license to do it, rather than go on the longer road of going to each individual state yourself. So that's why I think long term what Mehin are doing is really good, because not being in the US, I don't fully understand the whole system there, but every individual state seems to treat everything differently and has different laws to a degree within each state. Like in Ireland, we have one law, the country has the law, and then we have counties, they don't have their own. But in the US, it seems that each one can have their own ruling on different aspects. So when Mehin has it in so many states out there, I think that can be really good for them long term. And Clover Noah said, did I purchase my camera from Solana? No comment.
Yeah. Hey, those money transmitter licenses aren't cheap either. They cost at least about $250,000 to get all 50 states. license.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean you're going to get all of them, but you can try.
Yeah.
And Virginia's on the list. Yay.
Yeah, and I think even when I talked to Mayhem, they said that me being in Ireland, I can still mint because there'll be different licenses for outside of the US, and they're actually a lot easier for them to get, but they want to have the US licenses too and really try and do it right, put the right foundations in there. So I think we've just coming up on the hour now. I don't know if there's anything else, closing thoughts or anything, Rick, that you want to cover, or anyone else that has anything in the comments, and we'll wrap it all up in the next few minutes.
I'm good. Let's do another one in a couple of weeks. Let's do an update after Dubai.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I enjoyed catching up. It's great having you on. You have a wealth of knowledge about Cardano, and I definitely like to do them. If we can do them once a month or once every few weeks or something like that, it'd be great. I think I enjoyed the conversations, and I learned lots in it too. So everyone that tuned in, thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it. And it's great to see the people who are still here in the bear market turning up every day. It's great to see them people. And I hope everyone gets rewarded when things do turn around overall. Thanks. And thanks, Rick. We'll talk to you soon.